Today, having a modern medical practice means utilizing the latest technology. MedCharts is a doctor-designed EMR toolkit that offers a streamlined solution to an often overwhelming process. Our software features include organized patient charts, appointment scheduling, generating e-reports and patient scripts using templates, graphing vitals and labs, importing lab reports, intra-office and patient communication, and billing software for invoicing and credit card transactions. Our user-friendly patient portal allows your patients to have access to their own charts. The best part, MedCharts is free. Let us take care of your practice so you could take care of your patients. Learn more and download our free demo today at medcharts.com.
Well, good morning, Docpreneur Nation. My name is Michael Tatro, and we have a special guest talking about cancer case management, Dr. Ran Goshen, all the way from Israel. And we want to thank you for being here, Dr. Ran Goshen, with N1X10.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So before we jump into introducing N1X10 and what you guys are doing for patients and for doctors, we always say around here, it's not about being the best doctor in the world anymore. It's about being the best doctor for the world, for your patients and for your local community. And the reason we're talking with Dr. Goshen today, founder and chairman of N1X10, who's got an amazing cancer case management technology that he's going to demonstrate and share with us, is that this is a big deal. Keeping patients involved in the process, keeping physicians involved in the cancer case management process. I was just reading a book last night about how specialists never kind of keep the primary care doctor in the loop. And so there's just so many, it's just so fragmented out there. And keeping all of this stuff organized, and especially when the devastating diagnosis of cancer comes upon us, it's good that you guys are doing this. So Dr. Rand, thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about, before we jump into N1X10, tell us about how you became interested in medicine. What led you to become a doctor?
Well, that's a tough question. So I was born in a kibbutz in Israel. I don't know if the listeners know what a kibbutz is. Born to Holocaust survivors, and from the date of birth, if and when you get born to Holocaust survivors, you get the sense that you have to survive, even if there is no danger threatening you. And I heard it from, I would say, my days in high school, that being a doctor is a good job. You'll always have a job to do. So I think that kind of shifted. My mother was a pharmacist. My father was a teacher. There was not too much of medicine in the family. So I guess this is what led me. And of course, my interest. I think this is the love of my life, is doing good for patients, doing good for people.
Well, not only are you an MD, but you're also a PhD. So what areas of clinical study did you really focus on?
So I did my MD studies in Jerusalem at the Hebrew University, did my first residency at the Hadassah, at the affiliated university hospital in Jerusalem, in OBGYN, and then came back to the Hebrew University, did my PhD in cell biology, where I looked into a cancer model, and specifically to a cell-cell interaction, what happens when a cancer cell meets a normal cell, in kind of simple analogy. Most of my research has been done on cancer genomics and the epidemiology of that. I did my second fellowship in gynecologic oncology in Toronto. And that's where I deepened my research in cancer epidemiology, specifically cancer genomics.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and have you pull up your slides for us. And while you're doing that, you can answer for us why cancer? Why, a lot of physicians have a personal story related to their specialty, to their unique area of study. As you're pulling up your slides, and you can go ahead and bring those up now, what really led you to have a passion for cancer? Was it a personal journey? Was it a personal, someone in your family or friend group? What led to that passion, or was it just an interest level?
No, I would say that cancer is oncology. Cancer is the real medicine. The real, if you have a real drive to do research and match it to clinical practice, there is no better place to practice it than oncology. And the love of my life, as I already indicated, is to be by the side of patients. I love human beings, and I love to be for them at their toughest minutes in life. Wow. And we will talk about what happens when cancer patients get diagnosed with cancer.
Actually, absolutely. And we say a lot around here as well, 5 words from a doctor mean more than 50 words about a doctor. And, you have cancer. I know that's 3 words, but, having someone, I think of that painting that you probably are familiar with. A physician sent it to us. He had given it, his grandfather had given it to him as a gift when he graduated from medical school. It's that old painting of a physician at the bedside in someone's home, from probably the era of paintings of like the 1920s, 1930s, and it was I'm sure it has a famous name, but it's the physician at the bedside of a patient, and that's so important. So I'm going to go ahead and let you kick it off, and you can do most of the talking from now on until the end. We'll do some questions and take some questions from Dr. Goshen, and go ahead and kick us off. So
once again, thank you, Michael. Thank you for the very kind invitation and the opportunity to present N1X10. So what is N1X10? N1X10 is a global market network which is now exclusively offering its cancer case management services to private medicine doctors and to their cancer patients. These are based actually on a methodology that was developed over the last decade and currently is being powered by N1X10 proprietary platform. I'm here, Michael, to show how private medicine doctors and their cancer patients can both benefit from N1X10 services. So let us start from the pain. We will go over the claim, and then we finish with the gain. The gain for the patients and the gain for the private medicine doctors. So at N1X10, we aim to disrupt cancer patients' journey through the introduction of a new service model, which is supported by an enabling technology. You may ask me, why disrupt? Well, we should first talk about healthcare systems, regardless of their nature or geographic location, and then discuss how we could turn patients to become an impactful stakeholder. Cancer patients, as you already indicated, are often facing a possible death verdict, nothing less than that. Their world commonly falls apart upon being diagnosed, and they seek help, the help of their healthcare system. At N1X10, we aim to lead a paradigm shift right here. We aim to offer a solution for cancer patients who want to remain seated in the driver's seat. So let's have a look at the journey of these cancer patients. Cancer treatment, as you all know, demands a multidisciplinary approach. Once diagnosed with cancer, care management is being shifted out of the patient medical habitat and transferred to dedicated centers, the cancer centers. Over there, patients are being taken care of by teams of oncologists and supporting professionals. The truth of the matter is that the vast majority of those professionals are truly there for the good, dedicated to best treat their patients. But they all work within a system. And I have no doubt that each one of our listeners, our physicians, can recall and even name patients asking for help from them, their most trusted doctors, while they were treated at the cancer center. And both patients and these doctors may have felt at unease, as neither all the information was available to them, nor were they familiar with the treatments and all the alternatives. So let's dive in and see how does that system work. By definition, systems are designed to provide systems.
All right, looks like we
is to be custom designed.
hang on 1 second. We froze up there. So start over with this slide again.
Okay. By definition, systems are designed to provide systematic solutions. But what if? What if treatment plans need to be custom designed, tailor-made, to best match the disease characteristics, the patient needs, and the patient's preferences? Is a system built to put the patient at the center? Is a system structured in a way to allow patient's voice to be the leading voice? The truth of the matter is that in every single iteration, every time a patient meets a doctor, the insurer, the payer, and the regulators are all in the room. Caregivers need to practice oncology by strictly following guidelines, which have been agreed upon by all the above stakeholders furnishing the establishment of the NCCN guidelines. These all follow evidence-based medicine. The design of evidence-based medicine studies actually targets the average patient, which is represented both in the study group as well as in the control group. It definitely allows to reach a consensus where insurers, payers, providers, and pharma companies meet. Their voice is loudly heard, but the patient voice is drowned out. Oncology precision medicine requires a sea change. To lead this transformation, we are introducing a new stakeholder to cancer care. This stakeholder is like the patient's guardian angel. Unlike any other stakeholder, this guardian angel is powered by the patient and in turn empowers the patient. For the first time, this stakeholder is fully aligned with the patient's incentives. So let's talk about these guardian angels, about their roles, about their responsibilities. The story of N1X10 actually all started more than a decade ago. 10 years ago, together with world-renowned experts, I founded Eliasso to demonstrate how good can medicine be if one breaks out of the limits of the healthcare system. A pure proof of concept. Eliasso enrolled tens of patients who had three things in common. 1, metastatic cancer diagnosis. 2, desire to practice collaborative decision-making. And 3, admittedly, the freedom to choose for out-of-system solutions. It has been a privilege to showcase better outcome and better journey with no regret. The only regret actually that these patients had was not being introduced to Eliasso earlier on in their journey. But Eliasso handmade services are naturally available for the very few. N1X10 is destined to transform what was previously available for the very few and democratize this while maintaining a high-touch service. The guardian angel is an oncologist, and he is the case manager. The guardian does not treat. They advocate for, they educate, and they empower the patient, 100% aligned to their needs and to their preferences. But let's face it, to make this more affordable, sustainability and scalability should be secured. And this is where technology meets service. The N1X10 proprietary technology centralizes, organizes, and analyzes all of the patient data, medical and personal, unlike anything that is out there. It is designed and built to support decision at any given point in time. The treating oncologist, primary care physician, private medical doctors, caregivers, loved ones, guardians, and the patient finally have a visibility into the whole person. As we launch our service with the private medical community, we offer patients a package of 4 months led by our in-house oncologists. In a year's time, we will establish a market network, inviting outside oncologists to become the patient's guardian case managers. The 4 months package is comprised of 2 phases, the diagnostic and the therapeutic phase. So let's start with the diagnostic phase. The diagnostic phase is designed to help patients best navigate through the system, while at the same time identify what we call new druggable targets, new possible targets outside of the protocols and outside of the practice guidelines. We help identify out-of-the-box treatment recommendations to add more life to patient years and more life and more years to their lives. No question is missed. No opinion is not considered. No stone is left unturned. The patient and their loved ones can wield the power of the guardian, increasing their influence on the care they receive. This actually laid the foundation for N1X10 vision. So what is our vision? In our vision, imagine there is a big red arrow on the sliding glass door at the entrance to the healthcare system. It says, if you would like a doctor to accompany you inside, please go here. We escort you inside, not treat you, but to advocate for you. We make sure people see you. Like a lawyer in the legal system, the N1X10 guardian ensures the patient comes first. Vision is nice, but vision needs to be translated into action items, into mission. We took ourselves this mission. We are building a new market network, a network for oncologists to become N1X10 guardians and provide case management services to cancer patients. A market where patients will choose and contract their guardians. A market where affordability is facilitated by technology and proven methodology. A viral network where patients on the demanding side and oncologists on the supplier side share incentives. Only oncologists that will be accredited by N1X10 become Guardian case managers. The Guardians use our technology platform, follow our proven methodology, and are supported by our in-house certified physician assistants. The physician assistant has at least once a week a call with the patient. The Guardians have at minimum once a month a call with the patient. Back office services are being provided by N1X10 office. Our technology closes the loop between patients and case management professionals, enabling collaborative decision-making in real time. For the last 2 years, we have developed a dedicated technology. Again, a technology which enables collaborative decision-making in real time. I'm going to share with you some mock-ups and some pictures from our operative technology. Our dedicated app helps patients manage their lives with cancer, learn about their disease, adhere to treatment, follow related tasks, and track symptoms. Patients have full access to maintain control of their medical records and upload new records continuously. Patients' data and patient-reported outcomes are integrated into the platform, surfacing relevant patient preferences, disease status, and medical history. The timeline section, which I find to be most interesting, illustrates relations between events and measures, including blood analytes and relevant disease markers. Other sections include a mapping of up-to-date protocol guidelines and project management tools to keep the Guardian and the patient in sync. I'd like, Michael, if you do not mind, to leave enough time for questions, and will therefore finish with a short video describing our technology.
Yes, please.
Welcome to N1X10 Case Management Technology. Through a dedicated app, we help patients manage their lives with cancer, learn about their disease, adhere to their treatment, follow related tasks, and track symptoms. Using the personal section, patients have full access and maintain control of their medical records and are able to upload new records continuously. Patients use the app to report symptoms and outcomes and allow the transmission of wearables-generated data. All of the patient's data and PROs are integrated into a professional platform meant for a case manager. The Home tab shows the patient's medical ID, patient's preferences, and the key data elements that describe the current status and relevant history. Each section can be expanded for additional granularity, filtered for ease of use, and exported to relevant parties. The Timeline tab illustrates relations between events and measures, including blood analytes and relevant disease markers. Other tabs include a mapping of up-to-date protocol guidelines for the patient's specific disease and project management tools. Our processes and technology democratize case management services and improve cancer patients' lives along their treatment journey. By empowering patients, N1X10 helps bring more years into patients' lives and more life into their years.
We are here, Michael and listeners, to align your incentives with best of breed and out of box case management services for your cancer patients. Please do not hesitate to contact us at info@n1x10.com. We are here to support you and to support your patients. Thank you, Michael, again, for taking the time. And thank you, listeners, for taking the time to listen. Michael,
Absolutely.
I'm very happy to take any question if you may have.
Absolutely. So we have some questions that have come in. And the first question I'll ask you is, can you share with us an example of a patient who has used your services?
Definitely, pleasure. Actually, I have, as we talk, I have a couple of patients that we started enrolling in the US. As I said, we already started soft launching our services through concierge doctors in the US. But I would go back to kind of an extreme example of a patient. This is not to say that we could guarantee same outcome for every single patient. This involves a patient that was at that time 70 years old, a very high network individual, partner with a very big 1,600 lawyers law firm. When I got the call by actually a client of him, he told me that this patient was diagnosed, and it was very clear, he was reading out of a piece of paper, with squamous cell tumor of the thymus. Honest to God, Michael, I've never heard about this tumor. And I told the guy on the other side of the phone, I have no idea what this tumor is. Not surprisingly, there are about 15 new cases on an annual basis in the US. It's an incurable cancer. I went to see this patient in California. When I saw him, he was what we call actively dying. He was on oxygen, sitting up. He was on morphine. He was short of breath to that degree that he was unable to finish a single sentence. Definitely, he could not lie down. He has been treated by the best doctors in LA. He had been consulted at Sloan Kettering and Johns Hopkins. He was enrolled into a couple of clinical trials, but unfortunately, his tumor progressed to that degree that he had diffuse lung metastasis, and 23 centimeters of his liver were possessed by tumor tissue. His CA99 was 3,500. The upper limit, the upper normal limit of that is usually around 30, 35, so 100-fold. They sent him home. They sent him for palliative care at home. That's when I saw him first time. It took us not too long. I would say that within 10 days, we came across case reports. And you know, not everybody had the time to read case reports. In this case report, a couple of them, we learned that a drug that is being used for totally another indication for neuroendocrine tumors that express a specific protein, somatostatin, that this drug, the samdostatin, the receptor antagonist, was able to show stop of tumor progression and sometimes even tumor regression. At that point in time, we came and said to the oncologist, actually the head of medical oncology, we said, why don't you send the patient to do a DOTA PET scan? It's a nuclear medicine scan that is being done in every academic center, which proves whether this tumor expresses somatostatin. And they actually said there is no sense in doing that. That's very specific to neuroendocrine tumor, and this patient is not a neuroendocrine tumor, it's a swamp cell. And we have validated the pathology. At that point in time, the patient's concierge doctor said to the patient, we have nothing to offer you, so why don't we do just a test? Let's pay for that and let's do the test. It was shining at a grade of 4 out of 4, this tumor. Groundbreaking. I got on the phone. I talked to a couple of centers in Central Europe and to a center in Houston that was at that point in time the PI of an FDA-approved clinical trial, because there is a very nice technology that is being used to treat those patients with neuroendocrine tumor, whereby you attach a radioisotope to this protein, you inject it to the bloodstream, and then only cells that express this protein get irradiated. It's a very selective irradiation. The protocol says you have to give at least 4 cycles of this irradiation, 6 weeks apart from each other. After the second one, the patient's PET CT was negative for any metabolic active disease. The CA19-9 was back to normal. We continued actually another 4 cycles, a total of 6 cycles, to consolidate. This patient enjoyed 5 years of extremely good health. He traveled all around the world, came to visit me with his wife, with friends in Israel all the way. It was really funny to see when his wife sprained her ankle, to see him pushing his wife in a wheelchair.
Wow.
So that's an example. That's an example that we are willing to think out of the box. We are not inventing anything new. We are not inventing, we are not smarter than anybody else, but we invest the time to read case reports, to think, to consult, and come up with sometimes things that are out of the protocol.
Wow. I love that. We are, so often healthcare talks such a huge innovation game about how fast and how quickly it's moving all across the world, whether it's in precision medicine, whether it's in cancer, whether it's in some kind of specialty, any kind of specialty. It talks about how large and how quickly it's innovating and moving, but yet on Tuesday afternoon, when the rubber meets the road, it's as slow as it always has been. In fact, it might even be clogged, and it's acting even slower. So I like when you say there, you make the very relevant point that I think connects with a lot of physicians is we're not necessarily inventing anything new, but what we are doing is investing time. And that's the mantra, the mission every single night when physicians' heads hit their pillows is, did I give my patients enough time today? And I know that the folks listening probably can answer that question with resounding yes, but most of the physicians who have not yet moved into some kind of slower pace with like a concierge model, or just taking the time to pause for a minute and there's a difference. And I'm not a physician, but I am a patient, and I know what it's like to sit on the other side of you. I was just there with my daughter and two of my kids yesterday, and my wife sitting across the exam room from a specialist, and it's tough out there. And when you don't feel like you have anybody giving you their time, you know, it can be very discouraging. It can be deflating. It can be depressing. And it does not help the healing process. The mental is part of that process. Thank you for sharing that. Our guest today is Dr. Ran Goshen, the founder and chairman of N1X10. You can go to N1X10.com. The next question that we have for you that's come in is, can you show us the working N1X10 platform? I know you showed us that video. Is there anything else that we need to see?
Okay, yeah, I did show only a video, but this is an operational system. It works. So that's how we case manage patients as we soft launch our services in the US. And please, yeah, I'm happy to do that. I will ask to share my screen again.
Sure.
I hope you see my screen.
Yes, we do.
So actually, this is our application. You have the list of all the patients here. That serves the case manager. It's not intended to be used by the patient. This is what we call the professional viewer. Just to go a little bit backwards, I was mentioning in my presentation, we have a patient app, and then we have the professional viewer. This is a professional viewer. I will pick one patient that is fully de-identified, so I do not breach any rule. This patient.
And if you're listening to the podcast version of this, the audio only, you can go and watch this demo at conciergemedicinetoday.org, or you can go to 4doctorsforum.org and watch this entire demo and see what you're listening to.
Thank you. So for the lack of any better analogy, I would call it the front page of the newspaper. From here, we can dive into every single chapter of the patient medical history and current disease. This has been generated on the fly from all the documents that the patient has scanned and uploaded using his or her patient app, regardless of the format, regardless of the origin. Our machine is capable of extracting the data and integrating it into this professional viewer. So look what we have here. On the upper left corner, we have the patient identifiers. Immediately thereafter, we have patient preferences. This is the most important thing. For example, this very specific patient, his main preference was to avoid hair loss. And the reason for that is that he took a company public on the NASDAQ, and months before he was diagnosed. And he would not dare to lose his hair, because that will have a tremendous effect on his newly traded company. So that was a prerequisite that he shared. First of all, to have full control of public awareness of his cancer diagnosis. Young patient, 53 years old, with metastatic colorectal cancer. You see those headlines, titles in purple?
Yeah.
Every time I click on each one of them, I can go and dive into the details. Let's do, for example, clinical summary. I can decide if it's from the last, from the first to the last, or from the last to the first. I actually prefer to use from the last to the first. And I can retrieve the original document from where all the extracted data have been generated. So that, for example, DRN stands for doctor notes. So the doctor notes will be retrieved here. If I want to pull the PET CT, I can retrieve the original report that's in Hebrew. So we read it from right to left. So that's the report of the PET CT. So the original document can be easily retrieved. But I wanted also to show you those dials. Actually, there are two missing dials here, but they should appear. And those are dials that reflect on patient-reported outcomes, PRO, generated by questionnaire that we give to the patient, and two dials reflecting on the patient's performance status. You are very well familiar with the fact that we always ask patients about their performance status, and we score it. No more need to ask the patient. We ask patients to get us the API to the wearable device that they wear. We know what's their level of energy. We have full reports on their level of energy. We know how good they sleep or how bad they sleep. We get their pulse. We get oximetry if we need. We get all those. We then have the biomarkers, meaning every biomarker that is related to the cancer. If I click on this, you already know that I get all the automatically extracted data from the documents that we have received. For example, we have received here reports from Tempus NGS. We have received germline mutations from Invitae, and these are all listed here. If I want, again, to retrieve the original report, that's all I need to do. Not look in the papers, in the plastic bed that the papers bring with them. I have them already archived and coded and linked to my application. I find, I don't want to waste too much time on that, but as I already indicated within my presentation, I find this timeline presentation to be something extremely unique. You see that everything is being color-coded. Purple for labs, green for imaging, orange for interventions, blue for patient-reported outcomes, gray for MD comments. I'm not that good with colors, excuse me. Black for hospital visits. And they are all being represented over the course of time. We have the dates here. We can focus them using this time machine. So I can shrink them or expand them. We can see every incident, whether this was a lab test and an intervention or an imaging, how that relates to each other. We can also, as you already saw, retrieve the original report. And that all is being integrated with the most significant parameters that we measure when we talk about response to therapy or, God forbid, tumor progression. So we look at tumor progression indicators, response to treatment indicators, and of course, adverse effects. Since this patient, for example, he received chemotherapy that may damage the liver, you can see that liver toxicity appears here. And I can look at, for example, one of the liver enzymes, SGOT or GOT, and see that he had normal levels before he started cycle 1. He got treated by a very common protocol for colorectal cancer, oxaliplatin and 5-FU. Once he started those, there was an increase, but a steady, not too much to write home about, things that we expect, and oncologists are not worried about that. But all of a sudden, his GOT rose and tripled, nearly tripled. And that was worrisome. It was worrisome mainly due to the fact that if you see here, his last cycle, his last chemotherapy cycle was about 2 months before this. So what happened? It's not the chemotherapy, but you can see easily what happened. He had a low anterior resection at this point. 2 weeks or before this GOT high-rocket. And we can go and look at the OR report. And at the OR report, again, excuse me for this being in Hebrew, we can follow what are the drugs that have been used for his anesthesia. And we could easily come to the conclusion that this is what we call DILI, drug-induced liver injury, that caused this. And you do not need to worry about that because it self-recovers. So this is what I wanted to share with you. And this is a live system. What you've been seeing now is generated on the fly as I show it to you.
This is great. Our next question for Dr. Ran Goshen, and that is our guest today. He is an MD and a PhD, founder and chairman of N1X10. Dr. Ran Goshen is our guest today. You can go to N1X10, N as in Nancy, 1, the number 1, like the number, X10, the number 10, 10, N1X10.com. We're coming in for a landing with Dr. Ran Goshen. 2 last questions for you. And I love, by the way, I love the term guardian. And what caught my eye when you were doing the demo there was the, let's see, just making sure I can see you. There you are. Was the patient goal. And, you know, you shared the one with hair loss. The other one was to be able to go to my daughter's wedding in July. I think that personal connection is so vital. It gives the patient something, and it keeps all the doctors on the same page. It gives them the why. Like, here's why I'm important, because the system throws me out to a bunch of specialists and a bunch of people that don't know me. They don't know my why. They don't know why I'm trying to work so hard to stay alive and why I'm going to all these visits. I love that about it. So second to last question is, are you concerned about your services competing with the either the concierge doctors or the treating oncologists? And then kind of wrapping around that, do I need to be an oncologist? And can I be a concierge doctor to partner or work within this program?
Okay, so you asked 3 good questions in one question. Thank you for that.
I always do that, right?
Let me start with the easiest and the last one. Can I become a guardian, case manager if I am not an oncologist? When I say oncologist, I mean all types of oncologists, medical oncologists, surgical oncologists, and radiation oncologists, because we all speak the same language. The short answer to that right now, no, because we really want experts to be and transfer themselves from the side of treating and actually presenting the system to the patient, to being now on the side of the patient and wondering together with the patient, what is it that I can do for you? And I'll help you best navigate with it into the system. And I will also, if you wish me to do so, try to find things outside of the system. So I think this takes an expert to do that. Having said this, I think in the future, we definitely should learn more about the possible role for internists, primary care physicians, to come and serve as a guardian case managers. Then I have to answer you about conflict, possible conflict with private medical doctors and possible conflict with treating oncologists. I'll start with the private medical doctors. The truth of the matter, I think it's just the other way around. It's a win-win situation. Let's admit it. We come from the same world. We share the vision. We share the vision that we want to empower patients and we want to do the best for our patients. That's why private medical doctors have a smaller panel of patients than other primary care physicians because they want to dedicate the time. So in that sense, as far as it regards vision, we share the same vision.
Great.
Moreover, I think private doctors, actually their practice can benefit from that. They can benefit from tactical and strategical points of view. On the tactics, I would mention when a patient is being diagnosed with cancer, a patient is being diagnosed with cancer, it's a huge hassle for the private doctor. All of a sudden, there is a lot of data coming in. You have to collect all of those. You have to organize those. You have to understand what's going on. And then you are supposed to help the patient to come to decisions. So we do all of that. We help organize. We take care of all the tough work of organizing the data. And we never make the decisions with the patient. We always create a triangle headed with the head of this triangle is the patient. And on one corner is the treating physician or the private doctor, and on the other one, us. We never lead the decision-making. We are consultants, we are advocates.
Wow. Well, our guest today, sorry, go ahead.
The last thing I owe you is about treating oncologists, you were asking.
Mm-hmm.
So treating oncologists, well, that's a tougher answer. There may be friction over there. There may be friction. Although the truth of the matter, I can share you a case that I'm just managing right now, where actually it is a gynecologist, came to me and said, could you guys do the research for us? We are lost. Could you arrange for a panel for a tumor board? And we did this with MD Anderson.
Wow.
And they are really relieved by what we did. But sometimes there can be a friction. But let's face it, what we are advocating for, patient empowerment, patient centricity, patient's voice to be heard loud, can cause friction. It can cause friction and it will induce a change management within the healthcare system. And we are here to help pioneering this. Sorry for the long answer.
No, I mean, with innovation, every innovation, I think it was an author, he said this recently in a business leadership podcast. He said every innovation has an expiration date, and there should be friction when it comes to change. And we know that healthcare is so slow to change. It's so slow to adopt change and bring change into the exam room. In fact, it feels like it's just so clogged, and patients are really not getting any of the answers. They're able to get one answer a visit. That's ridiculous. Like, it just shouldn't happen that way. And, I'm not a physician, but I am a patient, and I know what it's like to sit on the other side of you. And the data backs up that 8 out of every 10 people outside the four walls of, and this is within the US, our surveys, but I would gander that it's probably that way. I'm also Canadian, but I would gander that it's probably that way in most parts of the world, where if a patient was asked the question, hey, if my doctor's office closed tomorrow, how much or how little will I actually care? Well, the data says that 8 out of every 10 patients say, yeah, really wouldn't matter if my doctor closed at the end of the day. And that's a tragedy. Doctors' words matter. Your place in our communities and our lives matter. 5 words from you mean more than 50 words about you. You have cancer, you have pre-diabetes. It's time that we create some friction in healthcare and ruffle the feathers of some doctors out there by bringing to light some great solutions like what you're talking there at N1X10. So our guest today has been Dr. Ran Goshen, the founder and chairman of N1X10. Our last question for you, and this is what I want you to leave them with, is how can the audience of physicians, particularly those in concierge medicine or curious private medicine physicians, how can they help you? And is there anything specific that you're looking for, whether they've listened to the audio version or the video version of this?
Thank you. I will try to keep this answer shorter, and let me try to figure out in a bullet manner which is more memorable. So first and foremost, again, thank you for even considering to refer patients to us. It's not that you refer them and they are with us. We always work together. So they don't believe you, we work together. We are currently limiting our coverage to solid tumors. So we are now dealing with hemato-oncology, so no leukemias and lymphomas or multiple myeloma, but other than that, every solid cancer. If you have a solid cancer patient, especially those that failed a first-line treatment and are debating, consider approaching us. We want you to think about your patient, whether she or he are this type of patient that want to sit in the driver's seat, that want to experience collaborative decision-making, whereby we share with them all the knowledge in a jargon-free way, and at the same time, they teach us about themselves and the way they make the decisions. Collaborative decision-making, sitting at the driver's seat. We need patients to ask for that. We need the patient to be willing to dedicate and invest time, and that is also costly, or that needs some resources in order to get into this process of 4 months package. Third bullet, they need to be surrounded by what we call an inner circle of caregivers. They need a support network. We find it sometimes very challenging when this patient lives alone by himself or herself. They need support. There are lots of things to do. Lastly, I would say, I call it being a proficient with the use of computer, but they should not be able to write codes. All we need them is to be proficient with the use of computers, so they can do a Zoom call, they can send an email, they can receive an email, that type of things. There are sometimes very elderly patients that are still not familiar with these functionalities. So again, 5 bullets: solid cancer, driver seat, collaborative decision-making, investing resources, in support network, and computer proficient.
Great.
All of them, please do not hesitate. We are here to help.
And where would they connect? How would they connect if they're listening to the audio version of this and they just want to write something down? What email or person should I be speaking with, or website should I go to?
That they should write to info at N like Nancy 1X10 N1X10.com info. Our office is receiving this, our CEO is overseeing it, and we guarantee to get back to the patient or the private doctor within 24 to 48 hours. We sign a contract that's what we guarantee. As I already mentioned, we spend at least 1 hour a week with the patient. The rest is being dedicated to research and consultancy work. So we are very much with the patient, being their guardian angel.
Wonderful. Well, our guest today has been Dr. Ran Goshen. He's the founder and chairman of N1X10. You can go to N1X10.com. The email is info, that's info@N1X10.com. Connect with them if you have questions. If what you've heard here is of interest to you, if it piques something of interest to you, if it brought to mind some questions, info@N1X10.com. The folks over there I'm very excited to see this type of service and technology come into the world of medicine. We need more of this. And from a patient perspective, this is great because we can feel alone, and we do feel alone. And this is one of those solutions for the devastating diagnosis of cancer that to know that there's a team looking out for me means a lot. And so we come at it with that perspective. Thank you for what you're doing for your patients. Thank you for what you're doing for doctors. We want to thank everyone for listening today to the Doctorpreneur Leadership Podcast. You can watch the video version of this at conciergemedicinetoday.org. You can see Dr. Goshen present this information live and in person in Atlanta, Georgia, USA, here in the States in October 22 and 23. That's the conciergemedicineforum.com. You can go there, but it's also going to be available on our Doctorpreneur Leadership Academy suite of webinars from physicians that we speak with every day. Go to fourdoctorsforum.com. But again, info, that's info@N1X10.com. Connect with them. Dr. Ran Goshen, thanks for being our guest today.
Michael, thanks a lot. It has been a pleasure. I look very much to meeting everybody in a little bit more than a month.
Absolutely.